Okay, so here we are. Your student has learned over the last 8 weeks the notes and hopefully is on their way into their third month of lessons, into being automatically knowing these notes without using your pneumatic devices you started with. Now it's a question of blending. And every child I've ever worked with has understood this. When they learned C-A-T and they sounded it out the first time as ca-at, they quickly learned how to blend the sounds. The teachers in teaching reading talk about blending sounds. So cat is not k-t, right? However, we miss that point in teaching. If all they've learned is the notes, then they are looking note, 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 and they're not looking to track the page and keep their eye going across the page. So what I tell them, this is the very first piece in Alfred's Premier that uses notes on the page on the staff. Grandfather's clock was before it. Okay, so here we are. This is their first week actually doing notes on the staff that we have already learned. From the first lesson, I teach them that you're going to use each of these measures as a tracking unit. So you don't have 12 notes on the first line. You have 4 pictures in your mind of measures so that the eye tracks just like a scanning machine. So you're looking, your eye grabs each measure. I start with a measure at a time, and as they progress, we maybe go to 2 measures at a time so that the eye is continually tracking. Now, I try not to make a big deal out of this because at this point, they're pretty good. There's only a few notes that the book is actually having them read. So I try not to overload them with the tracking right away, but I move in that direction that they're going to track the notes across this book. The more notes they have, the more it becomes with rests. They're tracking groups, and I just say, remember, you're looking at a measure at a time, not note by note. Here is an example of, let's say here, the line has a half note at the end. I teach them that they don't get to sit there and stare while they have 2 counts going in their mind. Their eye is already over here looking ahead. I refer it to mom driving the car. She's not looking right in front of the top of her hood. She's looking down the street and steering accordingly. So we're tracking like a scanning machine. And that is one of the most important lessons the student needs to know, that if you have a whole note or a half note, their eye is already coming down here, and you need them to begin to do that at a very young phase. I even sometimes take a pencil and circle the measure, just to give them the idea that you're supposed to look at one grouping at a time and keep on going versus looking at each individual note. Some students learn that by themselves initially, and others just do not. And if they don't, then they're going note by note and getting just dug down into the keys trying to figure out what to do next. Now, intervallically, a lot's going on in our minds as we're reading. We're not only know what note name it is, we're also looking as to whether it goes up and down. So that's intervallic reading. All of that happens as we learn, and you point that out. Well, this note goes up and it's a skip versus it's a step. So all of these things go together while they're driving across the page reading the notes. And all of these things, I don't know what percentage of each of those points makes that they can read fluently, but I know that starting with the cards and making sure they know what the note name is vital, and that they really know them. Not just if it means 4 months of drill, it means 4 months of drill. But then they have it, and they have it for the rest of their lives. This tracking idea should start with the very earliest whatever book you use. In my next segment, I'm going to talk about ways to combine materials. And we're going to talk about that next in the next section.